Does this sweater make my butt look big? That's right, we're still making body parts trends in 2024. Today we're going to be talking about the decline of popularity of BBLs to the rise in popularity of ozempic and thinness, aka how we treat women's bodies in the media and in real life. If you're new here, I'm Carla. I make video essays like these, as well as some crafting crochet videos. So if you're interested in any of that, please do subscribe. I say this in every video, but everyone who's joined this little wholesome community is so kind, so smart, and it's just an interesting bunch. So if you want to join and you have any ideas or videos, or you want to ask me any questions at all, then go into the comments because I'm always there responding, you know? But without further ado, let's get into the video. So ins and outs for 2024 was a big trend on social media back in January. And I think we could all say, based on many pictures of different influencers and celebrities, that BBLs are out and Ozempic is in. Now, that's not my personal opinion, but I think that's what's been reflected on social media. This is very much a chronically online topic, so to speak. So what does this actually even mean? We've gone from, the 2016 internet aesthetic of bold eyebrows, big bums, and fairly heavy makeup, to now thin being in with the rise again of new supermodels, the drop off of curvier models being featured on runways, and of course the rise in popularity of Ozempic and other similar weight loss drugs. So this sort of yo-yoing back and forth of thin to thick body types being popular in the media or being glorified in the media isn't anything new. We've seen body types or body shapes be treated as trends for ages. In 25,000 BC, the Venus of Willendorf is a little 4-inch statuette of a very curvy figure, which historians have described as being a representation of the idealized feminine body type at the time. Much later on, in 1635, you have this painting, The Three Graces, which is just another example of curvier women being the ideal. You have the popularity of bustles in the Victorian era to make the derriere look larger. And then you get to the 20s, and that's when thin is truly in for the first time, at least in Western culture. So what is the reason for this turn in the 1920s to slender, skinny bodies being more desirable than larger ones? Dr. Stephanie K. Johnson, who is director of the Doerr Institute and professor at Rice University, says that while curvier bodies were desirable due to perceived fertility, thinner bodies were desirable because of a lower risk or a perceived lower risk of disease. And why we went from desiring a body that looks like it could be more fertile to desiring a body that looks like it's less susceptible to disease, I don't know. I don't know why that switch, but it makes sense. Both are somewhat related to our perception of that person's health based on what their body looks like. Either way, since the 1920s, we've pretty much gone back and forth on which body type we prefer in the media. So it's not surprising that the trend of having a very curvaceous figure, particularly in the bottom region, has died down in the past probably 2 years. Dr. Miami, who is extremely popular on TikTok, and I actually remember his Snapchat stories being huge back in the day, and he would show all the BBLs he was doing. He's even talked about this decline in an interest in BBLs. In an interview with Complex last spring, he said that he's seen an increase in people wanting their BBLs reduced or just reversed altogether. But that doesn't mean that people are all of a sudden against these cosmetic procedures. He also says he's seen an uptick in interest in skinny BBLs, which is basically a BBL but less dramatic. And I thought this quote from the interview was a really good sign of the times, and even his awareness of our tendency to very quickly change which body types we find most attractive. He says that when patients say they want a body like Kim Kardashian, he has to ask, do you mean Kim Kardashian now? Kim Kardashian 2015? Kim Kardashian pregnant? Kim Kardashian on a diet? You have to be specific. By the way, the average cost of a BBL is between $4,000 and $10,000. It's also one of the most dangerous cosmetic procedures that you can go under, and people have had horrible side effects, including death. While expensive, isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things, especially for the type of person who is considering cosmetic procedures in the first place. Which also gets to why this became so popular so quickly, including amongst non-celebrities and non-influencers, and might also be a reason why celebrities and influencers have quickly, within the last few years, turn their backs on this aesthetic. Because like some people on social media have pointed out, they have to separate themselves from the public. Also, if you're watching this part of the video, comment the peach emoji. Did you think I would choose any other emoji for this video? So if celebs and influencers aren't doing BBLs anymore, what are they doing? Ozempic. To give some context, this is a drug that suppresses your appetite and was originally meant for diabetics. And recently it's blown up, even though the drug's been around for a while. Celebrities like Oprah Winfrey have said that they're on it, and other celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian are rumored to be on it. It's seen as an effortless way to lose weight. You just inject this drug into your body, and there you go. Of course, it's not as simple as that. There are also some horrible side effects you can get, and it is extremely expensive. 1 month's supply of Ozempic costs $936 in the US on average, which is 5 times higher than the average price in Japan, which is the country with the next most expensive price for a month's supply of Ozempic. On average, in Japan, it's $169 per month. In the UK, the equivalent would be $93, $87 in Australia, and $83 in France. So that's just some context for you. Now let's get into body positivity / body neutrality and why seemingly it's not helped us very much as a society. What was even the point of body positivity? So even if body positivity isn't on your radar on social media, it is still a huge movement or topic of discussion. As of late 2023, the hashtag body positivity had 43 billion views on TikTok. That's a lot of views, and the interest in body positivity is still growing. Also, as of late 2023, discussions surrounding body positivity on Facebook and Instagram increased 43% year on year. Body positivity is being extremely positive about one's body, no matter what it looks like, and is sometimes seen to be in line with the fat acceptance movement, which tends to be an embracing of being larger in a society that marginalizes larger bodies, advocating for accommodations for people with larger bodies, and just a more general understanding and acceptance of bodies that don't look like what we see in magazines. And using the word fat as a fact, an adjective that's just factual and carries no moral weight, as opposed to seeing it as an adjective that is inherently an insult. Sorry, my camera died, so the lighting is a little bit different now, but let's get back into it. So this movement of body positivity and body neutrality very much felt like progress at the time, but now I'm not too sure. It seems like now the way we're talking about physical appearance is very, very vague. So instead of wanting perfectly defined cheekbones and a big bum, we are now more interested in looking natural, so long as that means you look young forever, have clear skin, have a symmetrical face, all while looking not too manufactured. You might have seen this trend that was like, reminder that this is what a 28-year-old face that hasn't had any work done looks like. And this started a big discussion of, people criticizing this woman, the first woman who did this trend, for not using enough sunscreen and having wrinkles and looking way too old for 28. And the point of this trend was to just point out that maybe a 28-year-old or 27 or 26 or whatever age it is, face actually looks a bit older than we're used to. Because while our interest in body types and physical aesthetics for women have shifted from highly glamorous and manufactured to more natural, the faces and bodies we're glamorizing are still not necessarily completely authentic. So it seems like we're actually still very much interested in altering our physical appearance under the guise of looking natural. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons reported in 2023 that 3/4 of plastic surgeons were seeing a spike in clients under the age of 30 accessing cosmetic enhancements. Among the most popular are lip fillers and Botox. And this article that was in part responding to that trend on TikTok said, and the side effect of seeing so many young women on screens with taut skin and unnaturally plump lips is that the sight of an unenhanced 28-year-old face becomes horrifying. And even though this trend had good intentions, this author does find some fault with it, which I would agree with, which is that these trends showing what an untouched, normal face looks like are a reinforcement that how we look is the most important thing about us. So now let's get back to the fact that skinny is back. And the tide shifting back to skinny is better than being curvy has come along steadily and quietly in the past probably 2 years. And we've also seen thinness be emulated and glamorized in all of these different internet aesthetics or cores that have been popping up on social media. So aesthetics like quiet luxury or that girl, and the aspirational videos that go along with these aesthetics that creators make are largely of a specific type of woman, typically thin and white. And creators of different sizes, if they want to participate in these trends or aesthetics, are pretty much forced to call out this exclusivity. And they have to very much make the opportunities for themselves to be able to take a part in these aesthetics. And that's true of many creators online who are a part of any marginalized community, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't still suck. Basically what I'm saying is that, especially if you're online on social media, like all of us are that are here watching this probably, is that our perception of women's bodies is completely messed up. Like the average person doesn't even know what the average person is supposed to look like at blank age. And you could say that celebrities suddenly looking a bit slimmer is them embracing their natural bodies. Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, Ariana Grande, and many others have been praised for dissolving fillers or being rumored to have dissolved fillers. And I think that's great for them if they are truly going back to what is more natural to them and they feel less pressure to look how they did before with all of the fillers, the implants, etc. But it does feel like a bit of a slap in the face to anyone who was desperately trying to emulate these aesthetics before. So the pros of this change of celebrities suddenly looking a lot thinner is that it could actually represent a shift to more natural bodies being accepted in the media, even for huge celebrities. But when it comes to the cons, there are a lot of them. The first one being that if we are seeing this as a pro, it's very much promoting the idea that natural and healthy bodies have to be thin and very, very thin, which is concerning because size can't be our principal indicator of health. And when we praise or admire somebody's weight loss, we're very much ignoring the fact that poor health, whether it's poor mental health or poor physical health, could have led to such an abrupt change. And then there's the medical aspect of it. If some of these celebrities who are suddenly looking a lot slimmer are using Ozempic, even though some might be praising them for looking more natural or healthy, this also ignores the fact that they used a medication to get to that place without necessarily needing it to be healthy. As in being prescribed this medication purely for weight loss, for aesthetic purposes, as opposed to for some sort of diabetic issue. This sets unrealistic expectations for women who want to emulate these results without realizing that Ozempic or some other sort of weight loss drug was the main catalyst for that celebrity or that influencer's results. This could lead to people going to extremes to try to mimic these results and the sudden weight loss without using a medication and having to go through other more dangerous means. And Ozempic itself can also be very dangerous, so it's kind of a lose-lose. And even though Ozempic is very expensive, like we talked about before, it is being heavily promoted as something that anyone can do and anyone should do because it's a quick, easy fix. When I'm scrolling on TikTok, I'll come across lives that are talking about Ozempic, and I'll come across like 3 in a row, and I never click on them, but I get them quite often. That's really dangerous. I don't necessarily believe that social media should be censored because I believe that people should be able to speak their minds and share what they want to share. But promoting a weight loss medication when you are not a healthcare professional is where I think any sane person would draw the line for censorship. It's very toxic, the people who are promoting this on social media, and it's preying on people who are vulnerable and insecure, who are going to suddenly drop thousands of dollars to try and lose weight using a medication that has a lot of negative side effects. And finally, this dropping of the BBL aesthetic and going for the skinny model like Ozempic aesthetic is to some extent mimicking the natural body types of many women of color, and then celebrities just dropping it when it's no longer cool. Kyra Gaunt, who is an ethnomusicologist and social media researcher at the University of Albany, explains that women of color's bodies, and specifically Black women's bodies, were put into the mainstream media in the 90s when hip-hop and rap became more mainstream. And she speaks about the negative impact that dropping curvy bodies as a trend could have on women who naturally have those bodies and were praised for years for having them. She says, women whose bodies are naturally like that are not getting rid of them. It's not a trend. That's not going to change what happens with the Black and brown female bodies, for which this is their natural inheritance. Basically pointing out that while the rich and famous have the luxury of picking and choosing how large they want their body parts to be at any time, this just isn't realistic for most people and can be very damaging to one's self-esteem if one year their body type is trendy and the next year it's not. So let's sum things up. We've established that influencers and celebrities are more than willing to change their bodies at the drop of a hat as long as they're still trendy, without much regard to how that might impact their audiences. We should also remember that abrupt changes in the body are not necessarily a good thing, and when we admire them or glorify them, that can be really dangerous for our mental health and for how we perceive women's bodies as a society. And I don't expect that we'll ever not make women's bodies trends, but I think being aware of how quickly these trends change, especially nowadays, is a really good thing so that you can clock them for yourself and not fall into them. Abrupt changes are never good, so whether it's someone suddenly looking very voluptuous or suddenly looking very slender, I think let's approach commenting on that person's appearance very carefully because we don't know how they got there, and if we praise it, it could be harmful to ourselves or to them. And while it might feel like body positivity and body neutrality have been completely pointless, that isn't actually the case. Researchers looked into the effect of exposure to idealized body imagery versus the effect of exposure to body positive imagery. They found that exposure to idealized body imagery decreased positive mood and body satisfaction in both men and women. In contrast, body positive imagery increased body satisfaction and decreased the drive for thinness in both men and women. Interestingly enough, this was actually different for men. So even though body positive imagery increased body satisfaction for men, body positive imagery did not decrease their concerns about their muscularity. So the body positivity movement on social media isn't a cure-all for any sort of body image issues, but it's not meaningless. And it actually might be even more important now that thinness and Ozempic are in the spotlight. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you think about the sudden boom of weight loss in Hollywood. As always, ask me any questions or let me know if there are any topics that you want me to cover in the comments below. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed the video so I can keep making more for you. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!